Hello, I am Sally Prosser, and I'm super excited to be on the next episode of the Online Prosperity Show. We are talking all things voice, communication, confidence. We are speaking all about the power of your voice and why it needs to be heard.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. Here we unravel the journeys of exceptional individuals that are paving their way to success. Now, today we have a guest who doesn't just speak words, but transforms them into a powerful force. Now, she's the voice and a public speaking coach, a TEDx speaker coach, and a Young Entrepreneur of the Year and PR and media based in Queensland, Australia. Now, I'm talking about none other than the incredible Sally Prosser. Now, Sally, how are you doing today?
Oh, with that introduction, I am doing fantastic.
Fantastic. Well, you can see I'm actually starstruck. I was mincing my words in between because for those that are watching right now, as you will discover, Sally is not only conquering stages, but also she's conquering snow-covered mountains in leopard print activewear. And as we can see from her garb today, leopard print
I got the leopard print out.
When I saw that video of you guys going up the mountain, I was just like, wow, this was breathtaking. And when I noticed you crying at the end, it felt like you had actually conquered a mountain in your own entire life there. I will talk about that a little bit there. So welcome to the show. And before we dive deep, can you maybe share with us a little bit about your journey into the world of voice coaching and public speaking?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I can't wait to share more about that experience up the mountain. It was incredible. And I feel like my subconscious has put me in leopard print again today to share the story. For voice and public speaking, I was one of those people who loved public speaking. You know, a lot of coaches, they've had these real trials and tribulations and then have overcome it, and now they help others. My mum tells me I was born microphone first. So I really hope for her sake that it's a figure of speech. So I was born microphone first, and from a really young age, I loved speaking. I think I was about 9 when I asked Santa for a microphone on a stand. That's all I wanted. And then when it arrived on Christmas morning, I did a speech thanking Santa for delivering me my present. And so from that age, I've just loved speaking. I did speech and drama at Stedfords and public speaking competitions and debating and all of that. And so when I was looking at what to do after school, it made total sense, something that used my voice. And people would joke, they'd be like, Sal, you got a face for radio. Believe me, at 5 in the morning, that was true. And so I started working in radio. And I remember when I walked in for one of my first shifts, I'd done a lot of practices, and then it was my turn to read the news, 5:30 a.m., a little radio station in a place called Wollongong, which is a seaside town south of Sydney, which is where I'm from. And up until that point, most of my experience had been quite theatrical. I'd been on stages doing Shakespeare, all of this kind of thing. So I go, good morning, it's 5:30, I am Sally Prosser. And my boss at the time was like, whoa, like, calm down. People are just getting the kids off to school. They're, waking up. Too dramatic. And so then I was like, oh my God, how do I change this? How do I change my voice? This is just how I speak. And I worked on making it more natural, which when you try to be more natural, often you're not very more natural, right? And then my boss, this beautiful guy at the time, said, Sal, don't try to do a voice. Be a voice. Now, especially profound for news, right? Don't try to do a voice, be a voice. And so I really relaxed into it and found at that time my broadcast voice. So it became, good morning, it's 5:30, I'm Sally Prosser, and it became a lot nicer. But that was the first time when I really discovered the power of your voice as an instrument to be able to adjust it for different scenarios. And I thought, oh, this is good. And
Wow.
then from there, I went into television and then I went into being a company spokesperson and then now start my own business. And there's lots of stories, of course, I could share about it. But at the core, it's helping people realize we have this inbuilt musical instrument, and most people have no idea how to play it, and they just speak on default. Whereas understanding that when you don't try to do a voice, you be a voice, which involves finding your true voice and then mastering the skills to adjust that for different people, different scenarios, different purposes. It is such a powerful tool to have. It's
Mm.
like your wardrobe. Imagine just wearing the same outfit every day and trying to have the same impact in every scenario. If you're at the gym, your active wear might be great. If you're going to a business meeting, your active wear might not give the impression you want. But this is what we're doing when we don't fully appreciate the range in our voice. We're turning up to everything in the same outfit. But when you can discover that range, then you can put on your business gear for your business meeting. You can put on your black tie suit for your special event. You can put on your pajamas for bedtime. And you can really, in every situation, have your communication land.
Wow. Wow. I absolutely love that. And thank you so much for taking us on this journey because I can imagine that 9-year-old who's asking Santa, for maybe a microphone or that tool. Would you say, some people are already born with the North Star inside of them, already knowing and having an idea that this is who I'm going to become? It just takes time for them to step into that sort of person. Would you say that is what would have happened to you?
Yeah, well, I did a Dharma coaching course a couple of years ago, which was helping people discover their true purpose. And in that, they talked about different ways to discover your Dharma, different ways to find your North Star. And I think for me personally, I'm definitely the one that was born with it. I feel like even though I didn't wake up and go, oh, I'm going to start a business, things happen in a funny way, don't they? I always knew it was going to be something to do with voice and communication. I knew that ever since I was younger. There are different types, though. Some people are the accidental. They'll just have a particular experience or meet a particular person and then fall into what they were meant to do.
Mm.
For others, it's a challenge of somebody else in their life. They'll have somebody in their life will have a challenge, an illness, or it could be anything, and then that will prompt them to go down a path. But Prosper, what about you? Like, do you feel like you were born knowing what your North Star was, or how did you come across it?
You see, and I quite like that question because so many people might discover a little bit later on in life, but I
Mm.
always had this incline that I had to show other people how to do certain things. It's always been about showing others how to be, do, and have. It might not have, manifested in business or something like that, but ever since, it's always about showing people. I used to show people, I remember teaching other kids how to write. I remember teaching other kids how to do certain things as a kid. So it just may not have been the same thing, but my whole thing is about showing others what's possible. So
Yeah, I think it's also the archetypes. Like you've got so much teacher and visionary, and if you're a coach or consultant listening, you would have this as well. We have this deep teacher, this leader, this visionary, this. I'm sure you've been in a social situation and somebody has asked a question that you can help with, and it's like you can't help yourself. You really want to be able to to help
it's
them.
like,
And when that happens, you know
yeah.
that you're that natural teacher, leader, educator archetype. And the reason I know that is because there are people in my life who don't have that at all. I thought everybody was like that, but no.
I like how you mentioned that mom says you were born microphone first. Now that presents another layer to society where the people around us might thwart whatever talents or gifts that we might have so they can move us to something that they feel is maybe more compensating, so to speak, in terms of the life that we live right now. Could you maybe comment on that? How important is it to have the support of the village that actually grows this baby in order for you to then realize your capabilities? Because some people, like you say, might not realize it. It's only because maybe the people around them did not nurture that talent or that gift, so to speak.
Yeah, well, King Richard with the Williams sisters comes to mind with how he was nurturing their tennis talent. Taylor Swift and Taylor Swift's parents. If you look at some of the really successful people in their field, it was like a family business where, from a young age, there was that real nurturing and uh, creating that environment. We are like plants, and any one of us can thrive given the right environment. So in some situations where people say, oh, it's all self-accountability. I mean, of course, part of it is accountability, but I've seen so many brilliant communicators, especially in corporate organizations, where that just has not been the right garden for them to thrive. It's been nothing to do with them or their voice. They just have not been able to grow. And as soon as they're out of that environment, whew, it just completely takes off. And I wonder, growing up, mum was always saying, and so were my teachers, Sal, you're such a great speaker. If somebody came to present at the school, they'd be like, Sally, stand up and say thank you on behalf of the class. I was constantly getting this uh, messaging that I was a good speaker. Now, I wonder whether I was, or whether that is why I am and why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because so many of my clients I work with, they are brilliant communicators who are fighting against a narrative of their whole childhood being told a different story, being told that what they had to say doesn't matter. Maybe they were the younger sibling and their older sibling did all the spokesperson jobs for them. Maybe they were doing speaking during a class sometime and the teacher told them that they made a mistake or someone laughed. So all of these experiences that we have, I absolutely believe shape who we are and what we end up doing.
I absolutely love that because, so many people might have the talent, but if it hasn't been nurtured, then they're never going to be able to find a way to validate that for themselves. Could you also maybe pin this to, I think it's very prevalent here in Australia, but it's human nature, the whole tall poppy syndrome. Do you think that could be something that is thwarting a lot of voices out there that so many people can't put themselves out because that's how they've just been sort of brought up?
Yeah, like I'd say generally it is a thing. I work with lots of different cultures and you do see the difference. I Australians love being a bit self-deprecating and like, oh, some of my Australian clients, I'll say, oh, so we're building your credibility. So I do this exercise where it's how do you own your credibility, where you have to speak about, achievements and things that make you an expert in your field or doing what you're doing. And I always get oh, yeah, I don't know. I'll say, yeah, I won the Nobel Peace Prize, but I don't think that's really important. Like things like that, where you're like, come on. Whereas I find with other cultures, they're much more open and willing. And someone once did say something interesting to me that not having confidence and having self-doubt is actually a privilege. And I was like, what? What do they mean by that? And what they were saying was that because in Australia, let's say, there is quite a lot of opportunity and you can make it by while at the same time having a lot of insecurities and doubting yourself. Let's see how Feel free to write in and disagree with this. I'm just passing on what I heard. I thought it was very interesting. Whereas in some parts of the world, if you have self-doubt, you are eaten alive.
Oh
You
yeah.
have to have self-confidence. You have to speak up. If you don't go and knock on that door and say, hell yes, I'm going to blow my own trumpet, then no one else will. And it's almost like a survival instinct that confidence is needed in order to survive. And that's why they say self-doubt is a privilege. A very interesting lens to look at it.
Oh, absolutely. Now that you've explained the second bit of it, I'm now like, of course, because I think I saw this on your website. Nobody ever changed the world by staying quiet. You know what I mean? So it's something that could never be possible. That in other places where the system is not set up for you to just show up and be who you are, if you don't be, do, and have the the merit, the capacity, and everything else that comes along with it, then that's it. You're toast, right? So
Yeah.
it was quite surprising when I came to Australia. The first interview I went to, I had all my certifications, every bit of my documentation because in other countries they actually need to see that. And in Australia, in here, in the times that I was looking for work and everything, nobody asked for any of my qualifications. So it was just a whole different mind shift to what it is that I am used to. But while we were getting introduced to each other earlier on, we spoke about how so many people have an issue or a problem when it comes to when it comes to them speaking in public, because I think it was Jerry Seinfeld that mentioned something like this. It's easier for somebody to actually say the eulogy than for them to be. It's easier for somebody to be in a coffin than for them to say the eulogy. At a funeral. Now, could you maybe tell us how it is that you help, these business people, and business owners to actually start speaking with confidence, both on and off the stage?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, from somebody who, I did have to deliver a eulogy, for my dad, and that was the hardest public speaking challenge that I have done. So, it's quite challenging. And it's important to note that when it comes to speaking, it's often in those moments that really matter, those social occasions where you really want to have your voice. It's not so much the PowerPoint presentation at work. So here's the thing with public speaking. You can argue with me here, but we'll put it out here for a little bit of the shock value to make my point, is that there is no such thing as a fear of speaking.
Okay.
The fears are other things. The public speaking provides the cocktail of circumstance for existing fears and insecurities to come out. So is it the fear of being seen, the fear of being heard, the fear of being judged, the fear of being rejected? These are the fears that come out at public speaking. And we were mentioning earlier, I thought it was so interesting, Prosper, like you really put it together. In this day and age, we don't have the saber-toothed tiger. What are these situations that put us into that fear state and get us to confront the things that we haven't processed? And fear is this beautiful invitation for growth. And public speaking for a lot of people is that invitation. And so people will come to me, and the presenting problem, right? The presenting problem is often different to the real problem. So the presenting problem is, Sal, I don't want to go on camera for social media. Like everyone makes it look so easy. I want to promote my business, but I look weird on social media. Or I've been asked to speak at this conference. The thought of being in front of 1,000 people freaks me out. What do I say? How do I work? What do I do? It might be, I want to start a podcast. I can't stand the sound of my own voice. So those are the presenting problems. But then we work through, what are the real problems? So not loving your own voice. It's a little bit of that Australian self-deprecation as well. Like it's not really cool to like your own voice. So it's like more socially acceptable not to like it. But we get down to, okay, well, what is it? Where is the self-love lacking? What is it about your identity you're not accepting? What is the part of you haven't fully integrated? With that, the fear of rejection, what will people think?
Right.
Oh my gosh. It's really often not what other people will think or what, your mum's friend Jenny will think. It's often what you think of yourself.
Mm.
So we work through those. And I help people along to actually just confront the fears. When I went viral on TikTok in 2020, I never thought that voice and public speaking tips could be so controversial. But I did this video about pronunciation, which, by the way, is not a hill I want to die on. So that was a good lesson for me. But this video went viral for all the wrong reasons. And people were saying, don't let this woman tell you how you should speak. This is Australia's most dangerous woman. I was like, if only they knew. But they were really, really mean, saying that do not listen to her. And all the comments were, yeah, I thought there was something weird about this woman. So even though at that time, I taught a lot about not caring what people think, not pleasing strangers on the internet, all of that. But when I found myself in that situation, where was I, Prosper? Crying on the couch at my therapist's office, being like, why don't they like me? This is so mean. And what really cut to the quick was the comments that said, don't let someone like you, like her, make you feel bad about the way you talk. And that's in direct contravention with the reason that I do what I do, is that I want people to feel proud of their voice, to love their voice, to understand the potential in their voice. I am not in the business of making people feel bad about it. So that really got to me. And that was when my coach, therapist, counselor at the time gave me this brilliant advice. And she said, Sal, you've got to live your life in your disco ball. Live your life in your disco ball. You keep on shining, you keep on dancing, and you decide who comes to your party and who is a reflection right back on them. And that advice, coupled with my direct experience, was the strongest thing to help me really take a leap and bound ahead in not caring what people think or
Mm.
not being affected by criticism on the internet. So often I say to my clients, what's your greatest fear? Let's make that happen, right? Let's make that fear happen. And then you will see that the sky won't fall in. And not only will you be fine, you'll actually be in a way stronger position because you've leveled up. You've answered that invitation of fear to be able to have that growth. And that's also why I climbed the mountain in my leopard print underwear.
I enjoyed watching that video. You were just saying, I'm putting one foot in front of the other, and before you knew it, you saw the summit. And I think that, was sort of a journey you were taking inside of yourself as well, at that time. But we'll go to the mountain climbing part a little bit later. I'm intrigued with this whole part about, you putting out a video out there and instantly being bombarded by people, which is exactly why so many people who wouldn't have had the strength or the support that you've had, and the people that would have supported you in this time, they would have just, fetal position and actually just fold and never want to be seen in the public eye again because it's brutal.
I thought about it.
I can only imagine, and such is, like we said, there's nothing that really gets people to that spectrum of fear anymore because everything has been solved for. Even cars are safe now. Like back in the time, you would have to say a few prayers before you go on a journey to the supermarket because you never know if anything was going to fall off of the car or anything of that nature. It just, we're past that stage in life now. Could it be your experience or the fact that you also went on and studied, hypnosis, or you've got a very high level spiritual life as you're coaching that space as well, or your NLP training that would have made you understand the map, for the pattern of what was actually happening in your life at that particular moment, especially when it comes to, being a voice coach for people?
Yeah, absolutely. I uh I think when you're in business, you really need to be challenging yourself as much as possible because your business grows at the same rate that you grow as a person. And I think if a lot of people in general society are just too comfortable being comfortable, whereas I try to make myself uncomfortable as much as I can to get more familiar with that feeling and then have more growth. So I recently did the 10-day silent course, the Vipassana meditation. So I went to the UK and it was 10 days where it's no reading, no writing, no talking, no exercise, no dinner, and about 11 hours of meditation every day. And I know, like, for someone like me who is a music loving voice coach, raging like dancer, well, like not a good dancer, just like enjoys to move type person, it was so challenging. And I found myself in tears of sadness, like I wouldn't believe. I was so sad that whole time. I felt like the world had opened up and I'd fallen through a crack and would never be found again. It was this very, very interesting situation, especially because most people absolutely loved it. They were like, it was fantastic, whereas I really could not wait to leave. That experience, whilst it was difficult, whilst I didn't enjoy it, was an incredibly great teacher. I'm so grateful for the experience because I learned so much more about myself and got so much more confidence in the things I can do. You know, you find with public speaking, a lot of people who are great at public speaking have challenged themselves in lots of other areas. So they've been used to that feeling of doing something outside the comfort zone, of pushing the edges a little bit. And then I've got this big grin on my face because then when you do push that edge and you do get there, it feels so good. You feel so proud of yourself, and it gives you the ammunition or the fuel, sorry, to keep going and do it again and do something better.
Absolutely love that because you are 11 hours with nothing but your own thoughts. You are bound to shed off a lot there while that is happening because in our busy TikTok life, 5 seconds you've seen this, 5 seconds you're in Russia, 5 seconds you're in Zimbabwe. We just have this constant bombardment of, dopamine inducing hits, whereas you're just sitting there quiet. What?
And it's interesting, like that's one of the main reasons that people have troubles with speaking. So it's the overthinking, it's the overanalyzing, it's the overloading. So when people say, "Oh, I got brain freeze," it's because of that overloading. And this is a symptom of like too much distractification, too many things coming in, and then the voice is completely from the head and not in the body. So a lot of the work I do is, okay, let's get your voice back in your body. Let's take all this pressure off the head and put it throughout the channel. And once you do that, once you feel grounded and once you're breathing, you'll find that in that state, in that physical state, which is also something in NLP you talk about a lot, right? The physical state, you're never in a position where you forgot your words or you freak out about a slide going wrong or text stuffing up. You're fine because once you're in that state, everything else flows. So that's one of the things I work on with my clients is it's like, let's get us into that state of being with your voice. And then all these other worries are not even there.
I can only imagine. I mean, you're a TEDx speaker, coach, and you're helping thought leaders to actually present big ideas. When you're standing on that red circle, I can only imagine that you're thinking everybody is judging me, everybody is wanting to get as much information from me as possible, and you have to present a whole new concept that people haven't heard of before. So obviously, it's going to be met with we are not understanding how this goes. So you have to do that in like a space of 15 minutes plus commercials if you're watching on YouTube. Now, what's the key to delivering a compelling and impactful message? Like maybe you could walk us through that sort of framework if you've got something.
Yes, and I have not been on that red dot. So I have not got that lived experience yet of being on that stage. I've worked with lots of people who have been in that position. And often these, the great ideas are coming from people who are doing amazing things in their field and they're not speaking all the time, right? Or they've been used to speaking with notes, and TEDx is no notes. And also, TEDx is quite scripted. So it's like, oh gosh, I can't just ramble on. I need to stick to what I've written. So that adds extra layers. So we work around different tips on how you can memorize things. Um, and as far as the big tip with getting your message out there, in the writing process, that's when you want to have a sentence that really is your key message. Simon Sinek, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Like often the most famous speeches have this key message. And I believe in writing in the masculine energy and then delivering in the feminine. And what I mean by that is when you're building the structure, that's when you've got your, what am I going to say? Where are the key stories? Right. And there's lots of different structures you can work with, but often you've got a story around some data, around some kind of what I call mic drop moment. The mic drop moments, like what is that thing that if somebody was sitting there on Twitter, they'd be like, oh my gosh. If someone was there with a pen, they'd be like, oh, write that down. So you look at how can we have these really key building blocks of the speech or the house and have that together. Then when we go to present, when we stand on that red dot, like we were mentioning earlier around the physiology, that's not the time to be freaking out about the structure and the words and what bit goes where. That's the time to get into your feminine energy, right? So masculine, feminine energy, not being men and women, being different energy types. When you're presenting, that's when you are in the flow, when you're trusting your intuition, when you have the crown chakra open, right? So you're open to the divine, it can flow through you. You're feeling in your body, you're connected to the ground, you're connected to the sky, and you have that structure that you've pre-prepared that you're now free like a butterfly to deliver within.
Hmm.
And when speakers have that combination, that's when it's truly potent. Because if you are writing really in the masculine and then delivering, that's when you get kind of this look of, you can tell that I've memorized this word and I'm trying to remember where I'm going and it's a little bit stiff. And the audience might be like, I kind of like what they're saying, but I don't really I'm not really feeling the vibe. Then you may have speakers who are all in the feminine. Oh, I don't need to prepare. I'm just going to wing it. I'm just going to feel the energy. I'm going to go with the flow, something you cannot do in TEDx. But in other situations, that might be okay sometimes. However, those speakers often go off on random tangents and tell random stories, and you're kind of there going, oh, I don't really know where this is going. So then when you have that balance of the structure and then the flow, that's when the audience is like, wow,
Mm.
that is a message that I not only heard, but I felt it. And
I
that's what we go for.
quite like that. And obviously there's method to all this madness, but there's something psychological about the TEDx. I don't know if you have ever heard of this. I just thought about this while you were talking. Have you ever seen, you've been to Brazil before, but maybe in Spain, they do that running with the bulls, right? And they have a red flag that the bull is trying to murder, right? Can you imagine if you look to the ground, you've got a red dot that's just in front of you? Psychologically, doesn't that do something to you? Like really put you off of your balance, or is it just me thinking too fast and furious on this one
No,
here?
well, they say that like red we associate with stop, and
Yeah,
we also associate red with like passion, and yeah, and also apparently we associate red with appetite, which is why lots of fast food has red in their coloring because it makes us hungry.
I'm loving
So
it.
it's kind of like, oh my gosh, are people walking out there going, stop, I'm hungry? I don't know. And this is why visualization and
Yeah.
dress rehearsals are so important. The TEDx speakers, it's not the first time they're walking out and standing on that mat. When we're speaker coaching, even in our prior workshops, weeks before the day, we have the red dot. We have the mat, it's in the room, and people have multiple opportunities to become familiar with it. It's not scary, it's not going to bite them. They know how it feels under their feet. They know where they can move to do their talk. And so then when they're walking out onto that stage, they're familiar. And this is really important as well because often fear hides behind unfamiliarity, or unfamiliarity hides behind fear. So people will think that they're afraid of something when really it's just unfamiliar territory. So like when you travel, you go to a new town, a city in the world that you haven't been to before, you don't kind of just stay in your hotel or your Airbnb and be like, oh, I'm unfamiliar with the streets and the language and all of that. I'm just going to stay here because I don't know what it's like. You go, oh no, I'm going to go check it out. Like I'm going to get my bearings. I'm going to look at my map. What are some things that I'm going to explore? And if we approached every new experience with that same optimism, it would be very different. So rather than, oh God, I've never been on stage on a red dot in front of all those people, it's like, wow, what an opportunity to explore something different, to
Wow.
experience this new city. And then, of course, you don't do it on performance day, you do it before. And then by performance day, you're walking into a town you know.
Fantastic. I obviously am starting to believe you're a natural at this because you've also even gained TikTok, amassing 300K followers. You've clearly embraced, the unconventional. Some people still can't even download the app, and there you are already maxing it out, so congratulations on that. But you were starting to tell us about a story where you went viral on TikTok and you became a big roller coaster. um is that a common thing that people should be on the lookout for, or was that just what happens with obviously bigger numbers, bigger audiences? You now start operating in different territories. I don't think a lot of business people will be going towards the 300K mark. Two, three people will be enough, as an audience on TikTok.
Yeah, and look, thank you for that. I think that my virality was a lot to do with timing. And even now my following is going a little bit backwards. I was on TikTok just early. It was at the end of 2019, and then coming into COVID, of course, it was really good timing. And so when people say, "Oh, how did you go viral on TikTok?" It really was zigging while other people zag. It was doing something different. And that's a lesson that I've got to remind myself of as a business owner. So often we just look at, what are the ways that we have to do things, when often it's the move that no one's telling you to make that is the one that is the best for you. And I know for me, that's what worked. Like people didn't even know TikTok was a thing. And I just, yeah, jumped off it and went from 45 followers to 10,000 in less than a week, which was crazy. Back to your question about the audience. So I actually have a little course called the Magnetic Voice Formula. So if we talk about our voice being magnetic, or we want to be magnetic, often I find, business people want to be magnetic with conditions, right? So it's like, I want to be a magnet, but only if I attract everyone that I've ever wanted. Whereas the way a magnet works is it's attraction as well as repulsion. And so if you want to be that strong voice and attract the people who are meant to listen to you, we all have our own unique frequency. This is why I don't believe in competition, because each of our voices has this frequency that certain people are meant to connect with and hear, right? That's why it's so important to use your voice, because there are people who need to hear your voice and only your voice. So just had to pop that in. So what happens is when we go really viral, we end up getting all of these people into our force field that were never actually meant to connect with our voice. And that comes with the territory. In doing that, you get a whole lot of extra people who are meant for your voice. So in that experience where I went viral for all the wrong reasons, I shouldn't say that, because my business really blew up. I attracted a lot of new clients from that, and they weren't the ones writing the mean comments.
Mm.
Often the people writing the mean comments, they were never your client anyway. So, and over time, when you build a community, you get people who go into bat for you, which is really interesting. I've had lots of videos where I have not even said anything in the comments, but people who know me have been arguing, going, "This is not what Sally's about. She's amazing and she's helped me do X, Y, Z." So all of my clients were like coming to the comments to defend me, which I never asked them to do.
Oh, wow. That's
And yeah, so I'd say come for the territory. You want to be magnetic, you got to accept the repulsion as much as the attraction.
Oh, you can't pick and choose which which voices and audiences you want in your news feed. And I think people need to understand that because obviously the internet is uncapped. Nobody is a gatekeeper of the internet, so anybody can walk in. It's up to us to really keep honing into who we are, what it is that we're doing, and how we are going to be helping our clients with
And listen for the lesson as well. Listen for the lesson. So for me, with that video, I do not want to hang my hat on the way people pronounce words. Like, sure, it's something I do with some of my clients. Yet that was a great lesson to me to say, no, I want to move more into the area that I want to. Like, thank you to the criticizers because you helped me get clearer on my message and what I want to say. And from that point, I never made another pronunciation related video. So that
absolutely.
was great.
Wasn't it Michelangelo who said the man is within the stone? All we gotta do is carve out all the pieces that are not the man, and the statue will actually come out. And I suppose this is what you would have done because when you're carving out a statue, it's just a lump of stone or a lump of wood that you take off the pieces that are not the statue, and then the statue remains, as a piece or masterpiece that you would have created. Now, let's talk a little bit about your coaching style. I mean, how do you incorporate these sort of experiences? And you've even gone snow climbing, in snow-covered mountains, but you guys were wearing like summer clothing in a cold environment, if I'm not mistaken. But what I took notice of was your leopard print shorts there that you had on. Now, or you're running into the ocean for winter solstice, or taking being a mini Buddha for 11 days, not talking to anyone, not even speaking to anyone. It's a lucky thing that we even got you on the call today then, because you would have been on your silent retreat. How do you
I'm
incorporate
talking and I have my clothes on. So you're in luck.
so, so how do you incorporate all of this into your coaching, and how does that then make what you do different?
Yeah, well, I believe that, there's coaches need to embody what they teach. They really need to be an example. Like I'm sure we all see people online and they sort of say all these different things, but do they live their life the way that they are encouraging and helping their clients to? So, for example, I'm always encouraging people to get out of their comfort zone and to try something new and to be courageous, to have that vocal courage to be themselves and speak their truth and step into a scenario that, as you say, does freak the hell out of a lot of people. And so for me, I'm like, well, I've got to do this. And so what am I scared of? The cold. Again, I was born on the 4th of October on a hot summer's day. And my mum, again, always said that I really hated the cold. And my whole life, I'm like, always had a jacket. Even in Queensland, I'm like, oh, a bit chilly. So I'm like, okay, I've got to do this. And I've got long nails. I like wearing high heels, red lips, inner city. What is this inner city girl going and hiking with all these mountain men for? I didn't think that anybody could do this, let alone little Miss Inner City Sal. And it was part of a Wim Hof experience. So if you've heard of Wim Hof, he believes in cold exposure, mindfulness, and breath work as this trilogy to discover who you are and to heal trauma. So throughout this adventure, all of those three things were incorporated, and climbing the mountain was like what it culminated in. And I was cold, of course, yet I did the breath work. I was encouraged by other people. And here I was walking up this mountain into blizzard-like conditions. And this is why I started crying at the end, because we were at the top in -8 degrees where the tears were turning to icicles. That's how cold it was. And I have never, ever felt better. I was literally on top of the world. Well, I wasn't literally. I wasn't on Everest. Come on, that was a bad saying. But, I was like on a high mountain in Australia. And I thought, oh my God, what else is there that I think I can't do? Because there's that Henry Ford quote, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And that was one of those moments where I didn't think any human could survive in those conditions. Like my mum would have said, like, oh, honey, don't be ridiculous. You'll get pneumonia. Whereas I did do it and I felt fantastic. And so like, it's great to share these stories with my clients and to continually challenge myself into what else is there that I think I can't do.
Now, Sally, just listening to what you're saying, indulge me if you can and interject if you must. You lived in Brazil for a year when you were 18, right?
Yeah,
All
on
right.
exchange. Yeah.
Great stuff. Great stuff. So you would understand where I'm going with this. Now, where I come from, we have what's called a rite of passage. So this is a time where somebody gets to an age, maybe from 13 years old to 16. You are proverbially called in by the village elders and tapped on the shoulder to signify that it is your turn to lead. You're an adult now. And then you go on and do either scary things or whatever it is. So I'll just give some reference. I don't know if you've watched Hamish and Andy, you're in the media, you would know. There's a time when they
Yep.
went to Brazil and they put their hands in those bull ants that really,
Yep.
really, yes, exactly. That was the
In
right
the Amazon. Yep.
that was an yes. I'm not talking about the hurting stuff, but there's an actual pattern break in people's lives where you are now told what you're now doing moving forward. You're becoming an adult, you're becoming somebody else. Now go forth and be, do, and have. Right. So when you come to say the Western experience, there's nothing like that. It's just kindergarten, high school, university, get married,
And then go
grow
out
up.
and get drunk. I think it's a real issue. It's a real issue with men and women not having a proper rite of passage. And I think this is a key reason why and I mean, Australia has a heavy drinking culture, although that is actually changing. I think it's definitely changing. And people may be feeling lost in that period of their lives.
Right.
I really think that we're lacking in that way by not having that ritual.
So I'm thinking
I
what
mean, I'm
you
not saying we do bull ants, but like something.
so I'm thinking what you've created, who you've become, and what you offer to people is somewhat of a rite of passage because some of the things that you do is pep talks in your pocket. I don't think a lot of people have that. Looking at who you have become from 9 years old, you had your mom giving you that pep talk and encouraging you, and now you're doing that for others, right? Some people don't. So looking at how we have actually progressed with this conversation and all the things that you have done, you now created something that people can, just really, really have that pattern break. And they're no longer fully grown babies. They are actually people that are responsible for who they're becoming and using their voice to actually communicate. Would it be a great assessment of what I think you have become and what you've created?
Prosper, nobody has ever described it like that, but I find that quite beautiful, and I see the voice as this energetic channel. And if things have been pushed down for so long, for so many years, they've got to come out, and they come out in different ways. I help them come out through the voice. And sometimes I'm working with grown executives or business owners, and words come out of their mouth actually, not sometimes, often, words come out of their mouth as though they were a little boy or as though they were a little girl. And it just releases everything behind it. And in that way, yes, it is that pattern break. It is that fresh start. It is that, for want of a better metaphor, I did used to work for a sewage company. It's like a cleaning of the pipes, a cleaning of the vocal pipes. And we can hear it in the way that the airflow is going, and we can hear it in the words people use. and the breath flow. One of the reasons I put the pep talks in your pocket, which are completely free, is one of the exercises is breathing. Without breath, there is no voice. Oxygen is what powers our voice. Yet, time and time again, whether I'm working with a corporate team or a business owner or an executive, their minds are blown when they're like, I've never made the connection between breathing and voice. And it's like, oh my gosh, that is actually what drives your voice. It's like saying that you've played tennis without using a racket, without speaking, without utilizing your breath. And so it's so great because this work, you can tell I'm so passionate about it, is because it really does blow people's minds and change people's lives. And it's not just in the way they speak for their business or their career, it's the way they speak to their partner, it's the way they speak to their kids, it's the way they speak to themselves.
Wow.
And so they are not on their deathbeds with one of the big regrets, one of the top 5 regrets of the dying is, I wish I had the courage to express myself. I wish I had the courage to express myself. And so every day, that is my life's work, helping people not have that regret on their deathbed and saying, yes, I did live my life in full expression. And I did say what I want to say in the way that I wanted to say it.
It's a good thing we're recording this, because that was profound. I really appreciate you for that. And for the uninitiated and those that haven't discovered their voice, what would be the best way that people can get a hold of you there, Sally?
Well, I'm not an international woman of mystery. You can find me on pretty much any of the social platforms. TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, I'm at Sally Prosser Voice. The best way to get a good response from me would be Instagram DM or LinkedIn DM. And then my website is sallyprosser.com.au. Don't forget the AU. I would love to hear from you. And please send me a voice note. As you can imagine, I'm a big fan of the voice notes.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'll make sure that we're going to put all of these information in the show notes there, just so that people can get a hold of you. But it would be remiss for us to go away without having asked you, as a former news reporter. I mean, I've heard that you can actually do a really mean news reporter voice. You tried doing the 5 a.m. one, but then you've now become that voice. Can you maybe give us a test? Because I saw on your website you can actually turn a popular song lyric into a news report.
Yeah, so after radio, I did work as a TV news reporter. That's true. I've got my hairbrush microphone here ready to go.
Absolutely. Great stuff. Right. So you mentioned Taylor Swift earlier on. Let's turn one of her songs. I'm not a Swiftie, but maybe you would know a Swiftie song that we can turn into a
I certainly do. I'm coming down to Melbourne to watch her Melbourne night too. I'm actually running an event in Melbourne while I'm there as well. Let's just do a classic. Let's do Shake It Off.
yeah.
And I wasn't expecting this. You have put me a bit on the spot here. However, when you're in news, often these things are last minutes. So,
Yeah, it
oh,
is. Yeah.
so in breaking news, I stay out too late. Got nothing in my brain. That's what people say. That's what people say. I go on too many dates, but I can't make them stay. At least that's what people say. That's what people say. I can do a bit of the chorus. Let's go. Oh no,
Oh,
there's too much repetition for the chorus. But
yeah.
yes, but I keep cruising, can't stop, won't stop moving. It's like I've got this music in my mind saying it's going to be all right. Back to you, Prosper.
Yeah, in the situation room here, we are all hysterics. That is beautiful. Like I don't watch the news that much, but I could hear that tone of voice.
Neither do I much these days.
Oh, you make the news, you don't watch it, right? Fantastic. Well, this has been a pleasure, having to talk to you a little bit and getting to understand what it is that you do and how you're helping people and the difference that you bring into the world, because so many people, like you said, are textbook coaches haven't actually had the learned experience, which you have. And every now and again, you're putting yourself out there, just really pushing the envelope to have an understanding of what else is there. So I really appreciate you for doing this for us, although this wasn't as extreme as sometimes people think of it to be, but I think you showed your expertise, in managing your voice and really putting out difficult concepts, um, to people out there. Now, just having an understanding, you told us when you were 9 years old, that's when you sort of got that, reflection of who you were going to become. And it sort of started from there by you asking Santa for a microphone. Now, if you would maybe fly back to that time, obviously you've probably done that before, but in the interest of our audience, you go back to that little girl who's speaking in her stand-up microphone. What sort of words would you tell her? As words of encouragement. Remember, we said some people don't have those words of encouragement. What sort of words would you tell that young Sally, to keep going with whatever she thought was her calling?
Oh, the first thing I'd probably say is don't take yourself so damn seriously. I feel like a lot of my teenage years and my 20s, I was a little bit earnest and quite serious, and I was a bit of a perfectionist. Must
All
have been a struggle for my parents. So I would say have fun, have joy, and that's what really our voice is all about. It's a way for us to share joy. It's
right.
not a fear it is a fear to face, but it is a joy to give. And your voice is a gift you give. So I would say, girl, you got this. Keep on grooving, just as Taylor Swift says. The players are gonna play, the haters are gonna hate. Just shake it off.
Oh, I love it. I love that. Players gonna hate, 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 hate. Now
Yeah,
you've
and I would say, you know what? And I have these to remind me every day. Just have
oh,
joy, have love. Don't take yourself too seriously. Speak into your hairbrush and
yeah.
just love life.
Oh, I absolutely love that. Now, I mean, as we conclude this, what can our viewers expect from you in the future? I mean, you've been famous, you've climbed mountains, you've been quiet for 10 days, for hours. You swim in the coldest of all the waters. What else is next?
Well, my new project for this year is really exploring how voice is a tool beyond communication to others and how it actually creates our reality.
Mm.
So, what we say and the way we say it and the intention behind it is actually creating our reality. And I'm traveling to America at the end of this month to go to a really interesting place where they're doing research around mapping of the voice, where the science is catching up to the intuition behind the power of our words to create our lived experience, which I just think is so exciting.
Wow, that is going to bring storytelling to a whole new level because if you can speak, and one thing that I've always known growing up is your life story and your experience have so much value for those that are watching. Like whatever you're going through in life, if you can make sure that you're living the best life possible and learn how to do that, how to live your best life possible. All you got to do is just send the elevator down and help others be, do, and have a happier existence. And the only way you can do that is with a powerful voice and obviously making sure that you have confidence in what it is that you're saying. So, what you are
And you are
doing,
such a great example of that, Prosper. You are such a great example of that.
I would suppose, I mean, it's been a lifelong learning to get to this stage, but most of it has been the confidence and everything else that you've been talking about. So I really appreciate you being on the call with me today. And for those that are watching right now, that wraps yet another inspiring episode of the Online Prosperity Show. A massive, massive thank you to Sally for gracing us with the wisdom and sharing her journey with us. Sally, I can't thank you enough for the time that I think we've gone a little bit over, but you've been patient with us, really trying
Oh,
to,
it's been an absolute pleasure.
absolutely. And if you're watching this and looking to unleash the magic of your voice, I really encourage you to check out Sally's work, I'm going to be putting the links to your pep talks in your pocket. That's a free tool or resource that people can have access to, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic.
Absolutely. And if you're looking for more, then join my beautiful group coaching program of soul speakers. So my community is called Soul Speakers because that's what it's all about, speaking from our soul.
Oh, absolutely. I really appreciate having you on the call. And if you're watching right now, remember your voice matters. And as Sally says, don't wait until you're ready to take action. Just take action to be ready, you know. And I think that's one thing that is profound, you know, just don't wait until you're ready because there's never going to be a time that you're going to be ready. So until next time, this has been Prosper and Sally. We're signing off. So just shake. What is that? Shake, 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 shake. We're wishing you a prosperous journey ahead. Bye for now.